Hello, everyone. Welcome back. We are back with our inspirational interviews, and I have a really awesome lady for you to meet today. Before we go to our interview, I just want to remind you all that we will be doing inspirational interviews for the next few weeks. So tune in here on Tuesdays at 12:30 Eastern to meet some really amazing people who can give you information that might change your life. So I really enjoy talking to the folks that I get to interview, and I hope you enjoy these conversations as well. And if you're watching the replay, type hashtag replay in the chat here. And if you're joining me live, feel free to send in questions and let us know what you're curious about as our conversation evolves. We are going live using StreamYard, so if you can grant StreamYard permission so we can see your name, that is excellent. Otherwise, we can still answer your question as Facebook user. We just won't know who you are. So Kelly's here. Yay! I know, it's so exciting. We're back with inspirational interviews. So my guest today is somebody who I am in a business networking group with, and I met her and I was just like, oh my gosh, this lady is awesome. And I've been hoping to have her on for a while. So today is the day. So Emmy Crinclaw Bunch is the founder and CEO of Emily Ruth Health and the Energized Entrepreneur Academy. We help women CEOs create the energy and focus they crave to help them handle all their business tasks with grace and end their days with enough steam to enjoy the amazing lives they've built. That sounds excellent. We use coaching to help them create awareness of the things they've been tolerating and dismissing. Then we teach them how to live in harmony with their female physiology, so they can leverage their secret superpower to make life easier. I'm totally on board. So let's bring on Emmy. Hello.
Hello.
So glad to have you here today.
Thank you so much for having me here, Hannah.
Yeah. Let's start with just an introduction from you of who you are and how you came to do this work that you're doing.
So my name is Emmy, obviously. I am a holistic health coach, and previously I was working as an X-ray tech for the past 15 years, up until August of 2020. And how I got here, in 2007, when I finished X-ray school, I realized that it is not what I wanted to do. I loved it. I loved interacting with people and helping them, but I really wanted to help people stay out of the hospital, minimize their doctor's visits. And I was getting just so many, not like people in their 50s coming in for knee and back x-rays because they're like, oh, I'm old. And, they're looking at me at 22-ish being like, oh, you'll get it when you're older. And I'm like, no, I have family members and people who are older than you, and we need to move and we need to make healthy lifestyle choices. So I looked at a couple different things, didn't quite find what I was looking for. So I, made the best of what I was doing in the hospital, moved around to different hospitals, different positions over the years, and along the side worked on my own health. And I had been feeling okay, but at some point probably around the time I met my husband, realized that I didn't have the energy that I used to have. I just didn't feel the way that I wanted to. My sex drive was pretty low. And obviously that's an important part of marriage. And I think being in that long-term relationship sort of put a spotlight on that aspect of just, being with one person and him constantly being up and feeling fine and me not having the energy that I wanted. Meanwhile, we had gotten into CrossFit. We got into paleo. And so he had cleaned up our diets. We tried Whole30. And even though I had always believed that nutrition was important, for me, particularly giving up dairy, and just for the first time in my life, I could breathe in a way that I had never experienced. And so it was like, wow, like food and what we consume is even more important than I had believed before. And so that kind of prompted even more investigation and dialing in on what I was doing. And I had also when my husband and I got together, been having some issues with just pain and discomfort in the groin and vaginal area. And so through that, had been seeing my GYN way too much and decided to go off hormonal birth control, but I had to come up with another method. And so I did more research into charting my fertility. And that journey has just led me to learn like so much that at 28 years old was when I started it. And having already had tons of anatomy and physiology training, I'm like, why didn't I know any of this? Not like as a woman, one, and then as a healthcare provider who's imaging, like I've spent a few years doing women's imaging and was completely naive to all the effects that our hormones are having and just how it all works. And so, the past 10 years or so have been kind of my own learning journey. And then I finally came across health coaching, I think in 2016 or 2017. And that was when I was like, this is it. This is what I'm meant to do with the rest of my career life and potentially longer. So now I've kind of combined formal training in health coaching with all of the things that I've been learning with my own journey to help other women just regain the energy that we had as teenagers and, hope improve their libidos if that's something that's lacking, and really, really create their own natural lifestyle approach. Because, CrossFit was great for me for a time, but now I'm into yoga. For a little while, it was triathlon, and just sort of being able to go with the flow and honor that inner call to try new things and leave others behind.
Great. Yeah. Tuning in to what works for you.
Yes.
Uniquely. Yeah. That's so powerful. So we had titled this talk or this conversation interview, what are you tolerating? So I would love, you just shared a little bit about like what you noticed you were tolerating at different points in your life. Part of that is professional, part of it was physical, right? Like you were tolerating a job that wasn't particularly well, aligned to you in the deepest level, and then also some issues in your body. What are some of the things that you see commonly in the clients that you work with that people are tolerating?
Headaches. I see women getting, whether it be migraines or just any kind of not that extreme level, but just headaches from working too much and too hard and not giving themselves the breaks that they need, especially, as so many of us are working online and sitting in front of computers for hours, potentially with bad posture or just, the eye strain. So, and then just like brushing not little, but things that they kind of term as minor self-care issues, like maybe it's period pains, maybe it's, just little aches and pains they're not taking the time to address because they're still high functioning. They're still having massive success in life and business. And so they're like, oh, this thing isn't that big a deal. And so rather than waiting until that little whisper or knock turns into like a full-blown crash, helping them to kind of turn the spotlight on and say, oh, hey, what do you need?
Right. Yeah, yeah, I talk about this a lot in my work too, like listening with the ear of your heart instead of waiting for your body to scream at you. Listening and really hearing what is whispering to you and being like, hey, I need something that I'm not getting, right? And then taking care of things at that level instead of waiting for it to, yeah, like take you out of being fully functional, which is then a more progressed disease state. As we in Ayurveda, we talk about this, it's called samprapti. It's the succession of the stages of disease. And when we're not paying attention early on, then things progress. We get to the place where it's like, wake up, right? We get smacked in the face with a brick of life. Like, we have to wake up now. Yeah. So you work a lot with hormones, with people balancing hormones. What would you say are like some key points that you feel like most women need to know? Like you were talking about, like you didn't know a lot about, learning like fertility awareness and things. Like, what do you feel like are the things that you're like, everybody should know this and they don't?
Periods don't have to be painful, and like they shouldn't knock you out of your daily activities.
Mm-hmm.
Right? Like and heavy bleeding, like a period, the bleed should come, and like, yes, you're still gonna be like, oh man, there's all this blood coming out of my body, but it shouldn't cause so much discomfort and disruption that you have to alter your life drastically. Like, I would totally recommend this is a wonderful time for us to rest and kind of take it easy. But also, like, you shouldn't have to take medicine to control the pain. You shouldn't have to like completely wipe your entire schedule clean so that you can sit on the couch wrapped up in a blanket and heating pads and like going through numerous pads, because the blood is so heavy. PMS doesn't have to, take us out of, like, shouldn't leave us in tears or like feeling like we need to go to anger management classes. Our cycles shouldn't, there are fluctuations that are normal, but we shouldn't feel like we're manic depressive or like these wild extremes of fluctuation throughout any aspect of our cycle. Like, things, it should be more like a gentle wave rather than a big tsunami.
Yeah. Yeah. So that we don't get knocked off course. We're just maybe honoring where we are a little bit more than feeling like we can't function.
Right.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
And then, so being aware of that, like when we have those signals, that's our body telling us that an adjustment needs to be made, that something is out of balance. And so we don't have to tolerate, the stereotypes of what a period and a menstrual cycle is.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And looking upstream, right? So what has caused the issue prior? It's diet and lifestyle, I know, is what you work with too, and helping people see how their choices, whether they're choices that they've been making their whole lives that have resulted in what's happening, or more recent shifts, to be able to see how we are making choices, whether they're conscious or unconscious, that result in our experience. Yeah. So the fluctuations of a menstrual cycle, I do find that, like, in our culture, we look very negatively at the menstrual cycle and the hormonal shifts that happen throughout the month. And I think it's really unfortunate because, as you mentioned, it's like we have these superpowers that are innate in being women and in the hormonal flow. And I also work with a lot of women who are pre or during or post menopause, right? Like a lot of folks in that transitional time. And we look a lot at like how you've lived out the prior, really the decade before going through menopause is really what's echoed in menopause, and how we aren't very forward thinking in terms of our hormonal health. In our culture, we tend to just be like, oh, I wish, we'll take a whole bottle of Advil or whatever before we'll just be like, oh, my body's telling me to like take a little break, or maybe I don't need to plan to be so social during my bleed time, or as I'm going through menopause, maybe it's a call for me to tune in more to like, what are my true desires? And, instead of maintaining, what are your thoughts on those things like that?
Yeah, no, I totally agree with your approach of like honoring the, you said listening with the ear of your heart. And looking at what if the choices that we've been making over the previous several years, days, whatever time period, how is that influencing how we're feeling today and our overall health? It's and I think it's like what you said too, like culturally, especially with menopause, like there's so little discussion, open discussion of what the different stages of women's lives. And I feel like it's so hush hush, and that leaves us ignorant and scared because we just don't know what to expect. We don't know what others are going through. We've lost touch with what's normal and what's not, and ways of correcting and dealing with the things that aren't normal.
Yeah. Well, we've normalized the abnormal.
Right.
You said it's totally normal to be in excruciating pain and to have crazy mood swings and hot flashes and whatever else. Yeah. I think part of that too comes from us not honoring the transitions in our lives. And I feel really grateful. I grew up in a family that honored the transition from being a girl into womanhood, from having a coming of age ceremony, which I feel like I don't know many other people that got to do that. And I actually still wear it. This is a ring. I wear it on my ring finger, but this ring my mom had this made. It has a garnet in it to symbolize the blood of womanhood. And the cycle, there's 4 bands that are held together on the back. I mean, they're soldered together, but it's the cycles of womanhood. And just like that, I carry that with me all the time to remind myself of like, oh yeah, I'm in this cycle. Like I'm not, whether it's my monthly cycle or my life stage cycle. And I think the same is true for menopause. There's not, or croning, like honoring the wisdom years for women, that there's not a whole lot of like we tolerate. There's another thing we tolerate is like pushing women aside when they're older. Well, men and women, really, like older people are kind of said like, okay, move along. We can kind of put you over here, when really they're the keepers of the wisdom. And so I'm curious too, like that, if we're looking at what we're tolerating and helping people step outside. Is this a conversation you have a lot? Like step outside of the cultural norm to be able to see. I feel like that's so much of the work that I do, is to help people see through a different lens, to actually be able to notice what they're tolerating where it's been normalized by everybody around them.
Yeah, a little bit of it is cultural, but I have found, and there's 2 clients in particular I'm thinking of where it's been the family culture, which of course is influenced by the greater culture. But one gal, like from outside appearances, very fit and healthy, and her whole family is, but like we got into a conversation where she's like, my family is obsessed with fitness from an outside aesthetic appearance.
Mm.
And, um, kind of, I think the question that I asked her was, well, what does being fit mean to you? And it was the first time that she like really sat and reflected on, okay, well, here's superficially what it means to me, but here's what I actually want it to mean.
Mm.
And that it was a cool moment, because we both look back at our time together and are like, that was the moment.
Mm.
Just this big shift that allowed her to move forward, with much more rapid progression. And it was really cool. And then another gal had sort of a similar thing. Family's obsessed with fitness. She grew up in Mexico, and in Mexico, plastic surgery is super common and normalized. And there are procedures that she described that she didn't need, like, I don't know the word she used, but she didn't call them surgery. And I was like, that's a surgery. That it may be an in and out, but like massive trauma is happening to the body to undergo that. And so for her, kind of digging a little bit back into, as a teenager, the messages she was receiving from her family about the shape of her body and how it needed to be altered to be beautiful. And so really digging into kind of the stories we have in our heads about how things should be.
Yeah. Yeah. And what that definition of health is, right? Because we all have a different definition. And I think tying in the question that we're discussing here, like, what's your definition of health? And then what are you tolerating?
Right.
Whether it's a stuck story of, health, whatever health looks like, or something somebody told you as a child, or some message you got about how you are acceptable or are not acceptable in certain ways. And then putting those things together, like, what does it mean to you to be healthy? Like,
right.
Instead of trying to meet a cultural norm or a standard that for a lot of people isn't healthy to try to achieve, right?
Exactly.
It's very, very detrimental. Yeah. So I'm curious too, like, let's talk a little bit about food as medicine. I know that's another thing that you're passionate about. And what are some things that you wish people knew about that?
I think more awareness is starting to come about with that food pyramid that so many of us grew up with is just wrong. And not that grains and legumes don't serve a vital part of our nutrition, but that we should really be concentrating more on the leafy greens and the cruciferous vegetables, and even all the other things, the other vegetables that aren't categorized as leafy and cruciferous, that like that should be the bulk of our diet. And that dairy, like cow's milk, isn't really as wonderful as we've promoted it. I mean, you think about like the got milk commercials and just the heavy publicity on drink milk, and milk is what makes strong bones, and like that's not true. Like, we get calcium from so many other sources, and bone strength is a combination of having all the appropriate minerals, more than just calcium, and also having enough collagen to have the flexibility to, the minerals build the structure and the strength, but the collagen allows, gives the bone its flexibility and ability to sort of move a little bit with stress.
Elasticity.
Yes, elasticity.
That's the word you were looking for.
Yes. And so those would be like the two big things, I think, as far as, when we're looking at our plates. More vegetables, more vegetables.
Yeah, that should be, let's take down the got milk and just say more vegetables.
Yeah.
Everybody that I have ever worked with needed to eat more vegetables.
Right. Yeah. I mean, even vegetarians and vegans that I know.
Absolutely.
We all need more vegetables.
Yes. Yeah. And I'm actually, here's my nettles tea. So, that nettles, so I don't do dairy, except for ghee, which is clarified butter. And I drink nettles every day, nettles infusion, and nettles has more calcium than milk, which is so exciting. And it's also great for allergies. So it's like your one-stop shop, all your leafy green B vitamins, and it's basically a vegetable. It is.
I think that's something that's overlooked is how much herb infusions, teas, and spices, like, they seem so small, but we can get so much potency of phytonutrients and other minerals that makes them, they're more palatable.
Yes.
And easier to, because you can eat nettles whole, right?
Yeah. Well, yeah. I mean, I wouldn't do it unless they're cooked, then they'll sting you. But yeah, I mean, you can make nettles pesto. You can put it in soups. One of the members of my Vitality Circle program just found some nettles on her property by her son-in-law walking into them, which was but and then she made a nettle soup. So she cooked them and then pureed the soup. So yeah, it's a plant you can definitely eat. It's a little like spinach once it's cooked. But yeah, it's probably way more palatable this way for most people.
Yeah.
But yeah, so I drink one of these every day.
Awesome.
But yeah, good. Just food is medicine. And great point about herbs and spices, that there's some, we tend to think things have to be big to have an impact, but just adding, some fresh ginger to your food, or, some warming spices when it's cold, cardamom, cinnamon, those spices can have a really great effect in the body. And yeah. So great.
And I think it's cool is so many of our vegetables we've cultivated to be more tender, more tasty, bigger yield, but those herbs and spices we've kind of left unadulterated for their flavor. And so they retain a bit more variety in nutritional impact.
That's a great point. Yeah.
Which is like, I had no idea until I started doing my health and wellness training. Like, oh, wow, these things are actually really cool.
Yeah. And it's so fun too. I mean, it's kind of like a creative palette to be able to play with herbs and spices, and, none of them are going to hurt you, and you can just play and see what tastes good, and learn the qualities of things. Yeah. Rose just wrote in, somehow our society has lost touch with the idea that food nourishes the body. Real natural foods that include lots of vegetables. It's true. And you all hear me say it all the time. We're overfed and undernourished. We're putting a lot of content into our mouths, but we're actually not nourishing ourselves as much as we could. Very true. So, Emmy,
yes,
it went by so fast.
No,
let us know where can people find you, and what can they do more with you?
Yeah. So I let's see, my screen name and everything is Emily Ruth Health. So at Emily Ruth Health on both Facebook and Instagram, www.emilyruth.health on the web. And you can email me hello@emilyruth.health. And so I offer a complimentary breakthrough call which when we're finished, we can drop the link for that in the chat, but it's also, it's on all my platforms. And I offer both one-on-one coaching as well as a small group coaching program. So, but the entryway to all of that is doing the breakthrough call so that we can get to know each other and really determine, get you some immediate help, and also determine what avenue is the right one to choose.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for coming on here today and inspiring all of us with your wisdom and passion for what you do.
Thank you for having me. It's been so much fun.
Yay. Well, I'll talk to you soon, I'm sure. We'll see you soon.
All right. Bye.